Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Malia Hampton, and joining us today from the Australian Army is Corporal Jeanette McNeely. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand these men and women, what they had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private William Vincent Hodgens. William Hodgens, known as Will, was born on the 19th of April 1892, the third son of Mary and James Hodgens of Tottle Creek in South Australia. He was educated at the local school and went on to work as a farmer's labourer in the district. He was a keen sportsman and would try his hand at playing anything. He and his family were members of St Agnes Catholic Church in nearby Maribel, and it was recorded that he was always very attentive to his religious duties and a staunch support of the church. Will Hodgens enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in March 1916. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving 6 weeks later for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 50th Battalion. Private Hodgens first went to Egypt for further training, arriving in France to fight on the Western Front in mid-1916. The 50th Battalion was heavily involved in the second phase of fighting around the French village of Pozières and nearby Mouquet Farm in August 1916. Although his battalion suffered heavy casualties under some of the heaviest artillery fire of the war, Hodgens came through unscathed. Later in the year, after a period in a relatively quiet sector, the 50th Battalion returned to the Somme. On the 17th of November 1917, after several days in the front line, Will Hodgens' position was struck by artillery fire. Hodgens and another man were severely wounded, and Hodgens suffered part of his jaw being blown away, fractures to both his legs, and severe lacerations to a shoulder. The other man was worse, however, and Hodgens took it on himself to go and get help. He crawled about 200 metres to get attention, which took him over an hour. And once the stretcher bearers arrived, he refused any assistance until his mate had been treated first. Hodgens was eventually evacuated from the battlefield and sent through a series of casualty clearing stations and treatment centres to a hospital in Birmingham, England. By the time he arrived, his wounds were seriously septic. By early December, there was little choice but to operate and try and stop hemorrhages in his facial wounds. Private Will Hodgens, seriously weakened from his septic wounds, passed away under anaesthetic on the 9th of December 1916. Will Hodgens was buried in the nearby Birmingham Cemetery at Lodge Hill, where he lies today under a stone with no epitaph. He was 24 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst more than 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private William Vincent Hodgens, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.